Welcome back to 2017 Chief Executive Candidates Debate. We will be talking about economic policy in this session, and we will have media and audience questions as well as the home court session. From the commercial radio, please. Mr. Zhang, I have a question for you. You mentioned just now unity is very important, and the crux of the issue seems to be housing and price of property. Since 2008, it's twice as much now for housing property. For $15,000 income for a fresh graduate, it will take 7 years or more for the person to be able to save up for a deposit. What do you think? Well, this is definitely a big problem for Hong Kong, and the main problem is in the supply, insufficient supply. But we also have to understand that Hong Kong as an international financial center, just like New York or London, a lot of private property will not be inexpensive because there is a lot of demand coming from all over. And that's why in my platform, I say that we must have a long-term objective. 60% of the property of Hong Kong should be government subsidized. Apart from public housing, we have home ownership scheme housing as well as the sandwich class housing so that the people of Hong Kong can have a vision to go up the ladder step by step by step to move into private home ownership. And I hope this should be able to come to pass by providing sufficient property for the Hong Kong people, but it also means that we have to provide sufficient land. Ms. Lam, well, I think people are really waiting too long to buy their own property, and a lot of people are losing hope. For those in the queue and for those waiting to buy their own property, it's too long a wait, and that's why I say we have to provide the land. Perhaps the government can also provide subsidized housing. If we have existing land, then I think we would have built that into public houses because the queue waiting for public housing is very, very long. And a lot of people want to be able to get a roof over their heads and also to help with alleviating their burden. But Ms. Lam's proposal is not feasible because we are not able to get that land. In the previous government, I was already the chair of the Land Commission, and we have found 150 sites which will be coming to the market step by step. But there are different processes, a town planning board, etc. Wu Kwok-hing, follow up, please. Yes, you've been saying that you have to improve land supply. Why, in your offices, you two, both of you have served over 10 years in the government, why have you not improved land supply? And also in Hangzhou, all of a sudden there is a shortfall of 13,000 units. Both of you are responsible. Why is that? As a member of the existing government, of course, I will have to assume some responsibility. But the supply of land is already increasing step by step, as I mentioned just now. In the previous government, I have already, in the area of land supply, I've chaired a committee. We have found 150 sites which will be coming onto stream gradually, even though we do have some problems in town planning board process, in district council stage, but we are resolving these issues as they come along. And in the past few years, in terms of supply of property units, we have been gradually increasing that supply as well. And time's up. Lee Chapman from Phoenix TV.
就話即係唔少市民啦，等買樓等到頸都長啦。我相信唔少市民咧都覺得置業只是夢嚟。咁其實而家咧，香港市民嘅自住居所嘅比率咧係50%。你心目中嗰個比率應該去到幾多咧？而嗱，你哋三位咧其實都有提過話，即係填海去增加土地供應，點執行咧？你有冇時間表啊？
呢一屆政府或者回歸之後咧，第一屆政府係定咗一啲自目標嘅，但係恐怕咧亦都係難以達成。 But I'm afraid we are not able to achieve those targets. So I'm proposing that for the first-time home buyers, we hope that we will allow young people, especially young couples, who would have one opportunity to acquire their property, may not necessarily that they buy a luxury apartment, but at least they should be able to buy property at a price that they can afford, so that they can buy the property for the first time. Land supply is important, of course, and in my platform, I suggested that once I became the CEO, I would set up an expert group, not to look for land. We know where the land is, but how can we arrive at a consensus so that we can move towards that direction? If we're going to reclaim outside of Victoria Harbour, we can do so. If we're going to, develop the country park fringe areas or develop the brownfield sites, we can certainly do that. But right now, we don't have a census, and that's why we are not moving ahead. Mr. Wu, you say for the first-time home buyers, why is it that during your term you didn't make this proposal? Now that I've made this suggestion in my platform, you are following suit and copying my suggestion. I think, like minds think, great minds think alike. Many of our thinkings are very close to each other. For the current administration, as to whether or not we should, people should be owning the property or leasing the property, there are different views. John said that we should still be focusing on public housing. What I'm proposing is a policy spearheaded by home ownership. We will continue to supply public housing, but we would also should allow the public housing tenants who are more affluent to buy their own property so that the PRH units can be vacated for those in need. But I'm proposing to add, a scheme to allow first-time home buyers to buy properties. And I agree that if more Hong Kong people can own their own properties, this is conducive to social stability. But I don't quite understand how Mrs. Lam will deal with the long, queue on the waiting list for public housing. Of course, I have another suggestion, which is a very, innovative concept. That is, we waive the need to pay premium for the 250,000 HOS unit owners, because many of the HOS owners are living alone, occupying a 3-room flat, and they might want to lease out some of the rooms to those who are living in poor conditions. So I think we should try out this pilot scheme. Some people say that this may not work out, but it is my principle that if you don't try, you will definitely not succeed, since we have potential housing units that could be made available for lease. We should have the courage to try. Well, even if there are property, we need to be able to afford it. Mr. Wu, this is a question for you. Our economy is growing at about 2% per annum, and some people say this is low. So when you became the CEO, how do you propose to increase the rate of economic growth? Where is the engine of our growth? I think the economy is still doing fine at the moment. Most importantly, I think we should commit more resources and invest into innovative technology. For Singapore, it's 2%. In the mainland, it's 2%. In Hong Kong, it's 0.37% of our GDP. So it's not enough. At least we need to match the mainland or Singapore, that is 2%. For South Korea and Shenzhen, it's 4.5%. So we're not making enough investments on technology. We should invest more in that area. Also, for fintech, we have an edge. There are more than 10 banks in Hong Kong and are working with technology companies into the area of fintech. I hope that in this area, they can make some progress. Furthermore, they will be hiring more than 10,000 people. Mr. John Zhang? Our GDP growth now is around 2% per annum. Actually, the trend is more or less steady because we are a rather advanced economy. The rate of growth simply cannot, increase by that much. So my question for Mr. Wu is, you talk about fintech. Sorry, time is up. Mr. Wu? on cyber security, I think we have a competitive edge here, and we can, develop in this area. And for shared economy, I think we can amend our legislation so that we can allow more innovative businesses. We can provide a conducive environment for innovative, businesses. And I think the government should, provide support for those industries. Mr. Wu, I don't think you should be scared by John that our economy cannot grow by more than 2%. At the public forum, I said I'm not really, I believe that with the support from our country, we have the prerequisites to increase our rate of economic growth. Well, Hong Kong is a very good place. We have a very solid, legal system. We go by the rule of law. And for the Belt and Road Initiative, there are more than 60 countries with a population of 4.4 billion. If we could attract capital from those countries and attract the companies to enlist in Hong Kong or to raise funds in Hong Kong, it will provide a lot of extra business to Hong Kong in the field of accounting and legal services and finance. We will certainly be able to do more business. It's only that we need to be able to attract them to come here. And this is a great opportunity for us because we're talking about a population of 4.4 billion. There's now a question from the floor. I've just picked. Well, this is a question from Mr. John Zhang, 828. C24. Next, these two members of the audience will put the questions to Mrs. Lam. C12. A51. And these two questions are for Mr. Wu Kok-heng, C23 and A04. A28, your question is for Mr. John Zhang. Mr. Zhang, for the future of Hong Kong, for Hong Kong's future competitiveness, and also the rapid increase in new arrivals to Hong Kong, but we're not able to control the quality of these immigrants. Do you have a policy to deal with that? Well, population has not been increasing more rapidly. The birth rate in Hong Kong is relatively low. We are not able to even attain the replacement rate. So in many areas, therefore, we need to import labor. Our unemployment rate now is only 3.3%. So for different industries, sometimes it's very difficult to hire, the workers they need. And because of this issue, if we could resolve this issue, I'm sure the economy will be able to continue to grow. Well, this is also a question for Mr. Zhang. Mr. Zhang, for the SMEs, the business environment for them is very bad. So do you have any method for, well, I think you've served in the current administration. Is there any way that you can leverage on our national policies such as Belt and Road Initiative to help them? For the SMEs, I think they can make better use of our pillar industries to expand their work. I hope we would be able to provide more hardware and software to help the micro or SME enterprises with the businesses. For example, we can provide them with training in computer skills, provide them with hardware, or even in cloud computing, we can provide some apps to help them and teach them how to make use of cloud technology and also help them or teach them how to develop their markets on the internet. So this is a question for Mrs. Lam, C12. Mrs. Lam, about the Basel Committee, they expect that before 2019, all member countries will have to implement Basel III agreement. What are your views on that decision? Are there any other measures which we can prevent another financial crisis for Hong Kong? Thank you. Hong Kong is an international financial city, and therefore in terms of our compliance system and standard, we need to align with international standards. In my platform, I've also reflected views of the industry. That is, compliance is important, but we should not rigidly regulate the market. The market needs to develop. How can we strike the right balance between development and compliance? That takes leadership. And in my platform, I'm suggesting that we should set up a financial, steering committee to look into questions like, financial infrastructure risk and Hong Kong being a financial center, fintech and green finance, so that the committee can really, make some suggestions for Hong Kong. Mrs. Lam, many people are suggesting that we should take back the brownfield sites for housing construction. But for these, many of the operations now on the brownfield sites, it's not possible to move them into industrial buildings. So how are you going to help these operators operating on the brownfield sites? I'd like to thank this gentleman for understanding the constraint that we're facing. There are indeed economic activities and people employed on these brownfield sites, and we cannot abruptly take back these brownfield sites for housing development. I suggest that we should have an extensive discussion to decide on the way forward. Of course, the government is now conducting some studies to see whether we can move into multi-story industrial buildings. Indeed, there are difficulties with that. For example, the operators may be using heavy machineries which cannot be placed in these industrial buildings. So how much potential the brownfield sites have, I think we'll leave it to that committee to assess. But on the other hand, I understand that we should first develop the brownfield sites for which there are no such operations. Mr. Wu, in Hong Kong, we rely too much in the past on the 5 pillar industries. We now have the Innovation and Technology Bureau. How, going forward, the government can promote innovative technology to enhance our status internationally, and that we can have more confidence, give more confidence to the young people. As I said, we are investing not enough resources in the innovative technology in Hong Kong. It's only 0.37%. The government should top it up to at least 2% so that we can support the development of innovative technology, especially in the area of R&D. We can, for companies, engaging in R&D, we can offer them some tax incentives. Secondly, for young people who are employed in innovative technology, like possible Uber, Airbnb, because our laws are rather outdated, we need to amend the legislation so that more young people can, be employed in these innovative industries. Again, question, Mr. Wu. Mr. Wu. There are close to 7 million people. We need to import rice. So what service or products can we export to sustain the living standard of the people of Hong Kong? As I said, what is most important in Hong Kong, and we're different from the mainland, in that we have a very sound legal system, and it's a common law legal system which many countries have confidence in. Many people choose to come to Hong Kong to do arbitration because we are an arbitration center, and the people who come trust that our courts are fair. With this condition, we can attract many people to invest in Hong Kong, to raise funds and to list the companies. And all that can help develop our financial services and legal services as well as the accounting services.
Home court time, economics sector, 2 minutes each. Mrs. Lam. In this section, I would like to talk about tax. For John, I have come up with a new direction for tax. Some people say, what's so new about it? And I see in the platform of John's, in terms of profit tax, that it should be progressive, say a two-step profits tax approach. And I remember this particular proposal for 9 consecutive years had been raised by the business sector, but the financial secretary had never been convinced about this progressive tax system. And there's 16.5% of profit tax for the SMEs. We want to lower that to 10%. But with progressive tax, perhaps that tax at the SMEs will be higher for profit tax. Now, why were you not convinced as financial secretary for so many years? Well, it is true that the business sector and the commercial associations have been raising this for many years, but we have to be in keeping with the times. We have to look at the environment to make decisions. Theresa May, when she came into power last year, hold on, that's too far-flung. Our SMEs are in dire situations. I'm answering your question. Now, would the audience please keep quiet? Now, lowering the tax rate to 15%, and Trump also said that he'll lower the profits tax to 15%. Hold on. Switch off his microphone. Don't talk about the economies outside of Hong Kong. We're talking about the SMEs in Hong Kong in dire situation if it is 10% for the first million of profits, because we have $1 trillion in our reserves, Hong Kong, for the Hong Kong SAR in terms of our reserves. You still want to look at outside economies and not help our SMEs? Wu Kwok-heng, 2 minutes. Oh, I was just listening to the two candidates and I didn't know what to say. Right, really. I think there should be a progressive tax system to encourage the SMEs so that they can be more profitable with less tax burden on them, so as to encourage the SMEs' further development. I'm in support of that. Mrs. Lam, for this progressive tax system, how many steps, how many stages, and for each, what is the rate? Now, not to affect our simple tax system, for all the enterprises in Hong Kong, the first 2 million profits, they only have to pay 10% and not 16.5% profits tax as it is now. So for a company making $2 million each year, there will be a savings of 130,000 tax. What about making 3 million in profits? The first 2 million will enjoy 10% tax and the rest of it will be payable at 16.5% tax. That's all very fair, isn't it, Mr. Wu? Mr. Wu, your home court, you have 45 seconds. Yes, would the audience please keep quiet? Mr. Zhang, a question for you. What is your view, please? Well, I haven't finished yet, but Mrs. Lam did not allow me to continue. Well, in Hong Kong, we see that we've always had a low tax system, and it is a part of our competitiveness. The trend all over the world is to lower the tax rate, and we have to face this competition head on. Otherwise, we'll lower our competitiveness. And that is why I'm raising this now. It is because I understand internationally what the situation is. Shouldn't we save the people when they are in dire situation, Mr. Zhang? 2 minutes. Mr. Wu, I have a question for you. You have been a judge for so many years for finance and economy. I'm sure you don't understand so much about them. I'm sure Carrie doesn't understand either. But Carrie says she has 3 supporters, and she says with a few hours of tutorials, she'll know everything. That's what she says. And she says that she has a new policy, and I do not see what's so new about the so-called new policies. Have you looked at them? If you have, can you share with me what's so new about her policies? Well, I do not know what's new, but in terms of her supporters, well, this is my response. If I were elected, a lot of people would want to serve Hong Kong people, and there's no question about that. It's not like having heard 1 or 2 persons and all of a sudden you become an expert in a field. It doesn't work like that. Expertise have to be left to the experts, and I can find those people to help me. I'm not saying I've become a financial expert. Quiet. I haven't asked you to speak. Mr. Wu, I want to tell him that Hong Kong in the past 9.5 years, when I was a financial secretary, our expenditure each year was growing at 2 digits every year, and this is a very healthy growth in expenditure. Much like a family, in 10 years, it has over 100% of added expenditure and still have money in the bank as savings. And you cannot say whoever is managing the family to say that he's miserly. You can't say that. I just want to say that as a CE in an international financial center, you need somebody who knows finance, economy, budgeting. Thank you. Time's up. Rest time. We will be going into our 3rd area after this, livelihood. Thank you.